Welcome to today's show. I am your host, Eric Donnelly Small. If you like what you see here, please consider liking and subscribing. You can also click the bell and you'll be notified when new videos come up. I try to do at least a video a week, and I'm trying to get to doing more videos as I slowly grow and move forward. And as things change going forward, hopefully that will happen soon. In addition, if you, I'm going to read some articles. I'm going to talk about my interpretation at the end. Um, I encourage you to take a look at these articles yourself. You'll find full links on our Mastodon at mastodon.vtip.me/at what you missed, where you can read the full article and you can, take away from it what you will. And you can also reach out to the show there. On today's video, I want to talk a little bit of politics, not of the race per se, but of some of the races down ballot, specifically two losses on the progressive left that has happened recently, and that is Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. Cori Bush is specifically. And I want to focus on that, even though it's been 5 days ago since that happened, 6 days ago since that happened. But there are lessons to be learned by being defeated and losing a race. But the main question for me is about the politics of grievance and if it will take over the left, the progressive left. Cori Bush warns pro-Israeli lobby to be afraid after primary loss. And this is an article from the Guardian's Chris McGreal. And I don't want to go into, and I'm not going to go into a lot of the article because it's not specific. I do want to go into very specific things that I see that are perhaps teachable moments. But it says, member of the Progressive Squad says her loss has freed her to openly challenge AIPAC. And I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about it from the perspective of what is going on here, what can we learn, what can we deduce from this, and what are some of the things that I find problematic and instructive here. Okay, so that's now better. Let me bring this back so that we can see this a little bit better. Right, so that will work. So this goes on to say, again, this is from The Guardian, and it goes on to say, quote, Representative Cori Bush has warned the pro-Israel lobby to be afraid after it poured millions of dollars into defeating the prominent member of the squad of progressive Democrats in Tuesday's primary election in St. Louis. Bush said her loss to St. Louis County Prosecutor Wes Bell after the hardline American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, targeted her for opposition to Israel's attack on Gaza, had freed her to openly challenge the powerful pressure group, which has vowed to spend $100 million to influence U.S. elections this year in favor of Israel. They're about to see this other Cori, this other side, she told supporters. AIPAC, I'm coming to tear your kingdom down. Bush, who will continue to serve in Congress until January, added, quote, all they did was radicalize me, so now they need to be afraid. So, I think this is a whole lot of hyperbole. I think this is a whole lot of talk to some extent, because this was a bitterly fought race, and I think this is a very emotional response. But is it strategic? So moving on and continuing on. I want to talk about also concurrently, we've got other squad members that have been famously targeted by AIPAC, and this is Ilhan Omar. And this is an article from Jewish Insider by Matthew Castle. This was on August 12th, 2024, and it says Ilhan Omar primary opponent gets a fundraising boost after Cori Bush defeat. But strategists involved in the race are skeptical Don Samuels can pull off an upset. Interesting. So it goes on to say, in the hours after Wes Bell's upset victory over Rep. Cori Bush of Missouri last Tuesday, Don Samuels, a Democrat challenging Ilhan Omar of Minneapolis, Minnesota, saw an influx of contributions to his underdog campaign. By Friday morning, Samuels, a former Minneapolis councilman who came close to defeating Omar last election cycle, had raised nearly $160,000, he said, surpassing his total cash haul for most of July and lending his campaign a bit of momentum in the final few days of the race. Meanwhile, pro-Israel groups that spent heavily to help dislodge Bush and Bowman, including AIPAC and Democratic Majority for Israel, have refrained from engaging in the Minneapolis primary, even as Samuels has publicly insisted that they are missing out on a key opportunity in his rematch with Omar 41, an outspoken Israel critic he sees as increasingly vulnerable. This cycle, however, AIPAC ruled out engaging in the primary altogether, according to two sources familiar with the group's approach, though several AIPAC donors have still contributed to Samuel's campaign. Democratic Majority for Israel political arm DMFI PAC also determined that the race wasn't winnable and chose not to act, according to a source with knowledge of internal discussions, even as the group had likewise felt it misjudged the previous contest. Last time Samuels came very close, but we didn't find that out until very late, the source told JI. A lot of us were kicking ourselves about that. A small number of lesser-known pro-Israel groups have recently sought to boost Samuel's campaign, despite the fact that AIPAC and DMFI PAC have kept their distance from the race. Polling has indicated Samuels is facing long odds as he takes a second swing at defeating Omar, who raised more than $1.6 million last quarter and began the end of July with just over $680,000 on hand, a war chest she has deployed to mount an aggressive ad campaign. Though Biden and Waltz have not backed Omar's campaign, she has otherwise earned endorsements from Senator Tina Smith and House Majority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, a longstanding AIPAC ally who last summer vowed to stand behind the progressive lawmaker amid speculation that she could face a challenger with support from pro-Israel groups. And then I want to also then switch over to something that is worth remembering, something that was said and was a focus of the squad of the progressive left years ago when they became ascendant. And that was this idea of primarying incumbents, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez campaigns backs a campaign to primary fellow Democrats. Rep-elect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Justice Democrats want her victory over Rep. Joe Crowley to be the beginning of a movement rather than just a one-off. And this is from 2018 by Alex Thompson of Politico. And it's important to remember that many of these guys, Ocasio-Cortez being one of them, Bowman being another one, unseated somebody who had been in that seat for a long time and had gotten lazy, complacent, that their argument was that these folks who had been in Congress for such a long time were out of touch, out of step with their constituents, and they needed to be primaried. And primarying is a good thing because it forces people to go back to their district and rerun their race, reintroduce themselves, re-engage with their community. And it was championed then. It is now being criticized today by some of those same progressives. And I think it's very interesting. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. I actually believe that primarying is a good thing, and I agreed with the 2018 Ocasio-Cortez statement and probably what is articulated today. But moving on, let me go into this article. And it says, Rep-elect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, again, this is 2018, on Saturday threw her weight behind a new national campaign to mount primaries against incumbent Democrats deemed to be ideologically and demographically out of step with their districts. The incoming star Congresswoman from New York again put the Democratic establishment on notice that she and activist groups on the left aren't content with the Democratic-controlled House. They are determined to move the party to the left. Quote, all Americans know money in politics is a huge problem, but unfortunately, the way that we fix it is by demanding that our incumbents give it up or by running fierce campaigns ourselves, Ocasio-Cortez added. That's really what we need to do to save our country. That's just what it is. The grassroots group expects to focus more on safe Democratic seats as Crowley's was, then on swing districts, largely centered in the suburbs that the party won en route to its House majority. So, my final thoughts. Does grievance help candidates get better? There is no better politician out there than Trump to engage in the politics of grievance. Elon Musk and other billionaires also do it. This grievance is what has radicalized the Republican Party and given rise to the MAGA right. The GOP voter no longer believes in facts, elections. They question elections and have decided to use the specter of voter fraud to end free and fair elections. They have cast their lot with a man who is a proven liar and narcissist. They are being manipulated by our enemies, not just voters, but people who should know better, like Musk, who has never found a conspiracy theory on white grievance he has not retweeted. Musk could see a financial empire implode because of it. So there's a danger with being a part of this whole grievance, this politics of grievance, right? It takes away your focus from learning and from changing and from seeing things clearly. And it also radicalizes the party, and it allows you to be easily manipulated, as what has happened on the right. And mistakes were made by Cori Bush in her campaign. The loss by Cori Bush was painful, but to fall into grievance and anger is pointless. She needs to become a better candidate. She voted against the IRA and was one of two, according to the New York Times, to vote against a resolution to bar Hamas from coming into the U.S. These were traps she fell into. There are more than just two that voted against this. I think the entire squad voted against two multiple resolutions that were trap resolutions that were basically there to get people on the record so that you could run against them. And she also refused to debate West Bell out of either fear or arrogance. I think that was a huge mistake. These are political 101 types of moves that you would think that a politician like her would know better to avoid something like this, but she didn't. And I think it's the politics of grievance that made her feel like she might not have needed to or should have had to have to go up against West Bell and debate him. That gave him an opportunity to go around and say she's basically scared of debating me. Kamala Harris wisely has avoided that but has at the same time stuck to the debate schedule and not shifted for Donald Trump. She's been smart, strategic in her move. She's not allowing Donald Trump to control the narrative, to control the debate schedule. She's controlling it. Very different from just saying, I'm not going to debate him, which Cori Bush did. In addition, she could come back better. And if Congresswoman Bush were to run again, she could come back stronger than ever if she learns how to respond and act strategically. She could also begin her grassroots movement or even a super PAC and become even more powerful than before. There is a great opportunity here for Cori Bush, not necessarily to be a politician again, but to run a super PAC and to get people out and control who can run and what they're able to run on. What's also interesting is AIPAC, according to this reporting, is not going after Ilhan Omar, one of their biggest targets. And AIPAC seems to have done its homework, strategic, and decided it was unwise to go after Ilhan Omar, a favored target of the right. Omar appears to have learned a thing or two since her very narrow win. Notably, she is not listed as one of those against the IRA, like Bush, but she did vote against the resolution to bar Hamas to come here. Will it hurt her in September? That remains to be seen. She knows races are local affairs. Bowman and Bush clearly have communities with heavy Jewish constituencies, but according to report, the race Bush lost had ads focused on local issues. As stated earlier, for example, the IRA she voted against created jobs in her district. That gave West Bell, by the way, an opening to say, she's not doing anything for us. What she cares about is her squad persona. When if it were up to her and we didn't get the IRA passed, we wouldn't have these jobs. We wouldn't have all of this money coming into our area. Omar does not appear to have those weaknesses. At least AIPAC does not see that. By the way, the IRA is the Inflation Reduction Act, in case you don't know. That is, of course, Biden's signature legislation that poured, billions of dollars into states and communities that provided jobs, etc. Turnabout is fair play also. Democrats, specifically the squad back in 2018, called for primaries for sitting incumbents. Leadership said it would not support that it would support incumbents. Now this has come back to bite the squad. Leadership, specifically Hakeem Jeffries, kept his word in that he would support incumbents, even though Jeffries has his own district with a strong Israel backing. Will supporting Bush be work against him? This is going to be very interesting to see what happens when it's time for his election, which he's not up this cycle, I don't think, but next cycle. And I think what will be very interesting is to see if anyone's going to run using this and if it will be effective. I would not be surprised that Hakeem Jeffries had a conversation with AIPAC saying, listen, I'm going to support her. This is consistent with what Democrats do. Tina Smith is another one. The senator also supported them, which was really important as well. What's the future of the squad? Now, this is what's very interesting. I've talked about this a little bit before, and I'm very curious about this. The Bernie Sanders movement to get people into politics that happened after Hillary Clinton beat him in the primaries is one of these things that it does not appear to have borne good fruit for the Bernie Sanders wing of the progressive movement. I'll note that I did a video some time ago noting that Nevada became a basket case and is now a swing state because progressives, Bernie Sanders progressives, took over, and basically it became a crap show. Very similar to what happened with MAGA, and I believe it is Michigan. Michigan or Wisconsin, I can't remember which one. I'd have to take a look at my notes. But the MAGA people came in and basically made a joke of the whole thing, and really undermined what the Republican Party had built for such a long time, and they're backwards facing even still till to this day because of that. Nevada has become a swing state, I think, similar to that. Remember, the senator who won, Cortez Masto, barely hung on and won that Senate seat, but we lost the Democratic governor to a Republican because of that. So, it's important. It's a fascinating thing to look at what Bernie Sanders and what the squad is and what it could become. But two of their number have been taken down so far. More could come. And are we seeing an end to the squad or a significant, beat down of the squad to where it's not a functional counterweight to the centrists? And what of the progressive left that used to be ascendant? Could we be seeing a shift as more former Republicans get the ear of Democrats and try to appease the party? Could neoliberalism make a comeback? And what to make of politics on the left? Is it smart politics to put your political life on the line for things that you cannot control, like foreign affairs? Does anyone really believe if Biden had not supported Israel or stopped sending weapons, that this war would have ended or lives would have been lost? That peace would endure in the Middle East? A loss for every Democrat is a threat to democratic priorities like healthcare, Social Security, voting rights, women's rights, etc. This is one of the things that has been in my sort of a bee in my bonnet for a long time. You have to fight for those things that are core to the Democratic Party, even if it is something that, it means that you have to be against stuff that is, your conscience is against. You can fight for those things in other ways, but at the end of the day, you have to support the president, the Democratic president. You can apply pressure when you can, but you cannot be outspoken and work against him, which unfortunately has happened here, and that has cost 2 Democrats their seats. Finally, a new crop of Democrats could win and enter the House, beholden to AIPAC, a group that has been hostile to the Democratic left, progressive left specifically. Are these Democrats bought and sold by AIPAC? Will this be another group of Dems who will get beat 2 years from now by Republicans and turn their districts red? So always a concern for Democrats that they will end up with a situation in which they have become moderates. They have become beholden to a group that really doesn't care for the Democratic Party. They get into positions of power. They begin to vote in certain ways that are against and contrary to the Democratic base. And they are basically Republican light, and they're beaten by a Republican, a true Republican that comes in better funded, better motivated. And because Democrats are feckless and unable to get anything done, the people decide to go with a Democrat, decide to not vote, not come out and vote for the Democrat, and Republicans come out en masse and take those seats back. I think that well, I don't want to put a jinx on anything, but that is a possible future that we need to look out for. So important things that we can learn from races being lost. I hope that Cori Bush does learn from this and does come back stronger, different, but having learned a lot, having been a politician now for long enough, and to recognize you can't have enemies on both sides, both on the right and on the left. You have to take one side. You got to dance with the person who brought you. And she needs to really figure out how to be strategic in her responses, even after a loss, and also figure out a way to, as a voter and as someone who has very strong convictions, figure out how to get things done, because you are basically judged by what you get done. Being in opposition to the IRA was a huge mistake on her part. Taking that vote when she would have these kinds of difficulties was a huge mistake. Be very interesting to see how many other squad members could go down. Ilhan Omar, they're not campaigning very strongly against, although her opponent believes that she's very weak and vulnerable. Be very interesting to see what happens. Thank you for joining me on another one. You'll see me on the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Hey there, fantastic viewers. Eric Darnley Small here, and I hope you're loving today's episode of What You Missed. You've reached the end of today's show, but don't worry, there's more show coming up. If you're watching this on YouTube, please click the bell so that you'll be notified when more content is available. You can also help the channel by clicking the like and subscribe buttons. It helps the YouTube algorithm find new viewers so that I can keep bringing you all this incredible content you enjoy. But wait, there are more ways to support the show. You can make a contribution through the show's PayPal, which goes a long way in helping produce even better content for you. And consider becoming a part of our growing community by joining our Mastodon site at mastodon.vtip.me/@whatyoumissed for more engaging discussions and exclusive updates. And here's something you won't want to miss. Mark your calendars for our live show streaming on YouTube and stream.vtip.me Monday mornings, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Your support means the world to me, and together we're making What You Missed the best it can be. Thanks for being a part of my journey.